Stefano and welcome to February, the last month of the summer. Beautiful weather's here. Usually you can rely on it to be better than January, not quite so windy. And jobs on the list for this month, well, kind of getting ready for the autumn really. Get some seeds planted up and clear the beds, get them weeded. So the big jobs for this month is to lay the path between the cut flower bed and the polytunnel. It's always been a bit of a mess, and so I wanted to tidy that up by putting a path there, and to clean the polytunnel, get all the gumph out of there from the summer, the tomatoes and the cucumbers, get it all tidied and ready for the autumn. So yeah, quite a few big jobs there, but at the same time, got to make sure you enjoy the good weather, haven't you? So yeah, can't spend all the time doing jobs in the garden. So, got to crack on. Let's get that path done, shall we? So here we are, end of February. Sorry if I'm squinting, the sun's right in my eyes there. End of the month, end of summer. And I was looking back at last year's video from this time, and actually the veggie garden was looking pretty abundant. And you can probably already see, looking pretty clear now. It's definitely been a season of two halves, with it becoming exceptionally hot in January, with most things kind of not making it through. And so many things have already been picked early, and I have been really getting things ready for autumn, getting them planted. So let me take you around and see where we're up to. Okay, so starting at the very top, and the three compost bins are doing really well. I think you can see that the top one there is already filling up nicely. The ones that I did earlier with the horse manure in are beginning to settle down and drop down a bit. But yeah, both working really well, and I'm very happy with the way the setup is. And everything's looking very tidy around the shed area now, which makes it much more pleasant to sit up around this spot. Really like this space actually. I'm going to have to walk carefully so I'm not getting my shadow in. The potato bins working to a degree. I've not actually harvested many. We'll need to have a look at how that's going. Over here is my alternative seed station now. I've just found it to be way too hot in the polytunnel to do anything, and wasn't actually managing to succeed in growing any seeds whatsoever. So in here, I'll just lifting this up. I can hear the Ninja Kitten complaining about something. So we've got some broccoli and some cabbage going, some chives at the back. I can see a couple of lettuce coming through, but not many. Still struggling with the lettuce. Broccoli there. And down on the bottom, shame of shames, some balt seeds, some onions, and some Calo Nero. Let me just see what the... Hello. Hello. Looking down the plot now, as you can see, many of the beds have been cleared. This bed is going to be the third strawberry bed. Just going to wait for some runners to come off the other strawberries. And the carrot bed is coming along quite nicely. I've got 3 rows of carrots in, just thinned out the top one, need to thin out the other 2. I'm going to put some more rows in soon on this half, but I was actually thinking I might put a row of parsnip in. We've become particularly fond of parsnip at the roast dinner on the Sunday, and they seem to do pretty well here, so definitely thinking of that as a possibility. I'm going to go to the top of the next beds now. I'm just going to work from top down each time, just because my shadow gets in the way otherwise. Another cleared bed here. So obviously both these cleared beds had tomatoes in, which have been and gone for sure. And this one is either going to be broad beans or potentially kumara, but don't quote me on that. The asparagus looks like it's going over now, which is good, because last year it didn't seem to know anything about the season and just kept going all the time. But it definitely looks like it's browning off a bit there. One thing has been noticeable with the asparagus this year, which has been that it's been an absolute haven for the stink bugs. So you can just see a few of them in here. But my secret weapon of a vacuum cleaner, an old vacuum cleaner with the stick on, has worked wonders in getting rid of them. I really struggled last year with that, but yeah, it seems to have been definitely very effective this year. So strawberry bed in dire need of weeding. This one's the stronger of the two beds, and so I'll try and get the strawberry runners out of this bed rather than the other one. The other one has been weeded and is coming back a little bit. I've lost a couple which will need to be replaced, but otherwise I'm quite happy that this one's tidy and probably kind of sorted, ready for the autumn. Okay, up to the top of the next bed, and the top of the next bed now. So this was the pumpkin bed, and this will be either the cabbages or the broccoli. Both the big beds are going to be used for those, and have succession sowing going on, and hopefully keep us in cabbages and broccoli for the autumn and winter. Now comes the dilemma that I'm still working through. So these tomatoes are still struggling on. You see they've got quite a lot of tomatoes on them, but they are blighted, and my wonder about them is whether I should just get them rid of them all now, because I've planted some more tomatoes here in the hope that we might get some kind of late offering from them. I'm just wondering whether I'm just going to contaminate them, whether I should cut my losses, dig up the old ones and just concentrate on the new, or whether I think that these aren't going to come to anything because it's going to get too cold, and I might as well just harvest the ones that are on the blighted tomatoes. If you've got any thoughts on that, put them in the comments below, because at the moment I'm in 2 or 3 or 4 minds. And so to the top of the next big bed, and this one's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with the way this one is. I've let the parsley go to flower because there are so many pollinators on it. They really seem to like the parsley, and I think that's quite helpful to get the bees in. Beyond that, here we've got 2 rows of silver beet, and then beyond that 2 rows of French beans, which are all doing pretty good. That's pretty much what you want to be looking at in a veggie plot, healthy green plants. The soil here is cleared, and this is going to be the Cavallonero and the bok choy are going into this. I was also wondering about potentially putting a row of peas in here, but I might not have enough room. I need to have a look at that and think. And this bed will be the garlic bed, but in the meantime we've got the second lot of courgettes that I grew, and they seem to be flourishing pretty well. I did have cucumbers in, and they got destroyed by powdery mildew in about 2 days, which was unreal to watch. I noticed it on them in the morning of one day, just at the bottom. I thought, oh, I'll need to get onto that. And then by the next evening, they were all just gone. I just pulled them all up because I didn't want it spreading onto the courgettes, which it was beginning to do. And so the regime with these courgettes and the other ones is that I come round each evening, and any leaf that's got even the slightest hint of the powdery mildew is cut off. I'm watering them really heavily every night in the hope that they'll produce more new leaves than old leaves that are getting cut off. And at the moment, that does seem to be working. We're getting quite a good picking of courgettes after I thought that we weren't going to get any more, and we've got quite a few still on, so that's pretty good. Next bed on is going to be the onion bed, and you can see that we've got some chives just in the corner. What I actually want is have a strip of chives either end, and I've taken quite a few of the seed heads and sprinkled them along the edges. Some of it seems to have taken. You can pick up there that some of it's taken and some hasn't, but I'm growing some from seed as well, so I'm hoping between all of those things I can get a half decent strip on either end of this bed. Onions, as you saw earlier, I've bought, and we'll be planting them up probably once I get the first sign that we're in for a little bit of rain over a period of time. At the moment we're on a permanent fire ban and not much sign of rain. So up to the third big bed, and this had the melons in, which have all been picked now. And I was just on the verge of clearing all this the other day, and then I noticed that the melons, which I thought were over and done with, have made a bit of a comeback. And not only that, they're putting out fruit and flowers, which is wholly unexpected and leaves me again in a quandary as to what to do. There was a really big one around there, that's right. There. So at the moment I'm probably going to clear half this bed and leave the other half to see what happens. Peppers were just getting absolutely blasted in the polytunnel, so I pulled them out here, and they do seem to be recovering a bit from that, but they're pretty slow growing at the best of times. We've had a couple of really good harvests of them, which are in the freezer now, and hopefully we'll get some more just to give us a supply for the year. Moving to the next bed, some lettuce, sadly bought from the garden centre again. Normally I hate buying lettuce from garden centres just because A, you're supposed to be able to grow them so easily, B, you only get 6 in the pot. But as you can see, I got more than 6 in this pot, so that made me a little bit happier. And I've just not had any success growing lettuce this year, so I figured at least I've got some happening. And these were the first courgettes that we put in, and we've already had plenty of these, and you can see with that regime of ruthless cutting and trimming back each evening, we're doing okay. Last of the veggie beds, and in here is the beetroot and the parsnip at the end. We've been just having a couple of these each Sunday with the roasted dinners, and that's just doing us nicely. And I've just got in 2 more rows of beetroot on the other side, and patchy success so far. I've re-sown a few in the gaps, hopefully they'll come through, and another token courgette on the end with the courgette showing through. So moving to what I now call the pineapple bed. Pineapples are all doing nicely. See them all down the line there, settling in. Cut flowers, mixed. Need to have another think about that for next year. We seem to be getting a second flush on the snapdragons, which is nice. A bit unexpected, so that's a little double pleasure. The rhubarb. The days of the smaller rhubarb were numbered, and I took that out yesterday and split the big one here, which seems to be better suited to our purposes, and put it on there with some rooting powder on the root where it's split off, and hopefully that will take. Never done that before, didn't really look up what I was supposed to do beforehand, so we shall see, but I'm hoping that that will take, and that will be great then to have 2 really good clumps of rhubarb going. So the polytunnel is all cleared and ready for action once the warmer weather dies away and it becomes more bearable in there. At the moment, just too hot to do anything in that space. Definitely need to look at some shading for next year. Not quite sure what that would look like. Definitely looking better though, now that the pathway along the edge is finished. Very happy with how that's all coming out. The mulch that I put down was actually felt like it was a different colour when it first went down, but it's all dried off nicely now. It had been waiting for a few months to go down, so anyway, that's looking much better. And the cut border here, the roses are still doing really well, otherwise intermittent. The dahlias, still some flowering, most have gone over now. Didn't like any of them really. As a cut flower, they didn't last, they were pretty hopeless. The straw flowers were okay. Not sure if they'll come back next year or whether I need to do others. Mixed response, I think. Cosmos are always reliable. We've got quite a lot of self-seeded things going on. Obviously the cosmos, which grows like a weed, but I'm hoping that the gypsophilia might have also self-seeded, which would be good. Overall though, I would say a mixed success. What I have got down here is the rosemary, which are cuttings I took over a year ago and have now put them in here, and hopefully they're taking. One of the, both, they look like they're doing okay, so I think that's a success. So there we go, looking down the veggie garden. It's looking tidy, which is good, and certainly ready for the autumn plantings. Just a little disappointing that it's not a vibrant haven of summer fruits, which is kind of what it looked like in my mind's eye. Isn't that always the way? It never looks quite how you want it to look. But anyway, it's still pretty good. And so to the front bed, which for the summer has been quite disappointing, I have to say. Really struggled with watering, and so the standard roses haven't really taken until just the last few weeks. You can see they're beginning to fill out now. And the zinnias that I put behind were a complete failure, and I was thinking I won't bother with those again. But actually, the few that have survived down this end have now kind of come over the top of the lavender and showing the flowers, which was what I kind of had in my mind's eye. As you can see that they are over the top here now and showing nicely. Just needed a few more of them really. So maybe I won't give up on this idea. Maybe give it another try next year with some better soil and more plants and better watering. The petunias at the front door, as you can see, really just overflowing the boxes now. If you remember, these were just a single plant in each of these. These are super petunia bubblegum, and well worth the price of them. Really lovely. We're heading down to see the ladies and the orchard. Hello ladies. Oh, hello. Oh, hello. You're looking mighty fine there, ladies. Mighty fine. Normally when we come down we have a little treat for them, so they're all expectant. Okay, so the trees here, the pear trees. Well, this one has just existed really, hasn't really thrived. I've tried to water it pretty much every day just to keep it going through the summer. It was planted a bit late. It's not died, but it's not flourished. The other one has done slightly better. I can see some new growth coming on it, which makes me feel that the roots are established and doing better. So this one overall is doing much better. Much happier with this one. Otherwise, moving up, this is a Billington plum, doing nicely. Put on a lot of growth again. All of the trees have put on a lot of growth. The Braeburn, we've had 2 pickings of apples now, so probably 12, 15 all up, and had them in apple crumbles and with the roast pork, and they've been great. As you can see, getting a bit windy, so hopefully maybe 1 or 2 more pickings off there. My great concern is that wind knocks them onto the floor, because otherwise, if that happens, then the chickens have them and they're gone in about 30 seconds. The second apple, again, hasn't really thrived this summer. Hopefully next year it will do better. It's not died, I guess that's the most important thing. And then hopefully next spring it will get a good go. Fig tree has figs on it. Not ready for eating yet. Probably doubled in size over the summer. So next year I'm feeling that it's going to really take off. Peach tree doing outstanding. The apple cider vinegar spray that we put on it every couple of weeks really helps, I think. And yeah, it just looks so happy there. The nectarine, and beyond that, the plum, you can see looking pretty good. Everything's done pretty well, really. I've not actually heavily watered during the summer, despite the heat. I don't know if you can see the trunk of the plum tree down there. It's really quite thick already, considering that only went in last year. So that's pretty impressive, really. That's a Louisa plum, which is my favourite plum. Turning round, just the last few trees. These are the new ones that went in this spring. They went in a bit earlier than the pear trees, and I think they really benefited from that. They got a bit of a head start before the heat came in. So this is the second nectarine, and yeah, looking okay. The second peach tree, losing some of its leaves. I need to give that a bit of a water this evening, I think. Kind of thought everything was heading down into autumn, but not so sure now. So I'll give that a bit of a heavy water, I think, this evening. Just give it a bit of a perk. And finally, the almond tree, which hasn't really put any new growth on, but has been happily just existing, I think. It's not looked like it's struggled at all. Looking quite good, I think. I really like the way that looks with the chickens just rummaging around the trees. Looks great. So there we go, Fano. That's the end of the plot tour. That's the end of summer. Autumn coming up. I like autumn, I have to say. Sorry if I start laughing, I've got the cat messing around by my feet. So yeah, thoughts on the summer? Very interesting. Definitely a season of two halves, and disappointing on the one hand. But then I look at the produce in the freezer and I can't complain. Always lessons to learn for next year. I think the things that I really liked, the cobra beans were great. The weather took them off quite early, but the produce that we got and froze has been really great. They're really long beans and straight, so like all the benefits of a runner bean, but with the better taste of a French bean, I think. So yeah, they were really good. The pumpkin harvest, smashing pumpkin harvest for sure. So the watermelons, not so many as I had hoped, but what we got were great. I think that's very much to do with the quality of the soil, needs to be built up. Courgettes, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We've had such a good harvest from them this year, so really happy with that. Otherwise, cut flower bed, mixed, definitely mixed. Strawberries were great. So yeah, as always, I think with these things, you know, some wins, some losses, and you take what you get. So with autumn coming now, case of getting the beds ready, getting the brassicas in, getting the onions in, maybe getting the garlic in a bit later, and so a pretty busy schedule coming up as well. And so until next month then, Fano, I will say hare ra, take care, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.